Starward horizons. In the centuries since we first broke Earth's gravity, we learned a simple truth. The universe does not give up its secrets willingly. We built faster engines, smarter machines, stronger hulls. We pushed outward into the darkness until the night sky became a map of human lights. But the deeper we go, the more we find signs we cannot explain. Structures too old to measure, signals with no source, worlds that look arranged. Somewhere beyond the charted lanes, a pattern is emerging, one that suggests we are not the first to reach for the stars, and whatever came before us may not be gone. This is the starship Argo. This is Captain Raphael A. Sterling. The quest for the infinite begins here. Episode 11. The Soft Boundary. The bridge lights were dim to their night cycle amber, but no one was sleeping. Captain Raphael A. Sterling sat with his hands folded, motionless, watching the forward display. The starfield ahead looked normal until you stared too long, until your eyes began to notice the faint, impossible order that had been creeping into their path since the registry node. Not a grid, not quite. More like the suggestion of a grid, a politeness of geometry, hovering beneath the mess of the cosmos. Commander Daniel Calder's voice broke the quiet. Captain, we're coming up on the next region. The sensors can't decide what it is. Sterling didn't look away. That's a new one. Dr. Soren Kale leaned forward at science, his fingers moving in small, sharp motions, as though he could coax clarity out of the numbers by insistence alone. It's not a field, exactly. Not in the way we've seen. It behaves like a gradient. Define gradient. Commander Livia Cade said from security, already suspicious of any noun that sounded like a trap. Kale's eyes flicked toward Mara, then back to his readouts. A place where states shift smoothly instead of switching, where boundaries don't exist as lines. They exist as... He hesitated, searching for a metaphor that would survive contact with what was ahead, as soft transitions. Like a shoreline, Dr. Anya Petrov offered over the medical channel, her tone wary. Not a wall, not a door, a place where land becomes sea by degrees. That's almost comforting, Calder muttered. Mara stood near the science alcove, hands folded behind her back, her obsidian skin catching the dim bridge light and refracting it into faint violet flecks. She seemed to listen not just to the crew, but to the ship itself, the way a musician listens to a room before playing a note. Shorelines drown you, Mara said quietly, because you don't notice you're in the water until your lungs complain. Sterling turned his head slightly. You know this region. I know the feeling of it, Mara replied. The network uses it when something resists being resolved by force. The registry tried to name you. It failed. So now it will persuade you to become something it can hold. Tanaka's voice cut in from engineering, bright with tired intensity. Captain, I'm seeing the hull resonance shift again. The polyname's sheath is stable, but it's vibrating against something external, like two notes close together. Beat frequency. Sterling exhaled slowly. He could still remember the moment they'd become many, how the ship had ghosted, how reality had tried to pin them down and failed. The cost of that victory hadn't been paid all at once. It was being paid now, in subtle ways, in the occasional half-second where a console's readout looked wrong before snapping into place, in the way a crew member might pause mid-sentence as though remembering what they meant to say. He rose from the chair. All right, he said. We treat it like a first contact with physics itself. Calder, bring us to 1/4 impulse. No sudden moves. Kale, Map every parameter you can. Tanaka, keep the sheath ready, but don't engage unless we have to. Livia, keep security on standby, but, he looked at her, meaning it, we don't shoot the ocean. Cade's mouth twitched. Copy that, Captain. No shooting the ocean. The Argo slowed. Ahead, the region became visible, not as a thing, but as a wrongness in how light behaved. Stars behind it looked slightly smeared, like paint brushed across glass. The edge of the smear wasn't sharp. It faded, almost gently. The ship's forward sensors emitted a soft warning tone. Radiation? Calder asked. No, Cale said. His voice had gone very quiet. It's coherence of what? Sterling asked. Cale swallowed. Of everything. The Argo crossed the first soft threshold. Nothing shook. No alarms screamed. No dramatic flash of light declared, you have entered an alien zone. Instead, the bridge felt wrong. Not dangerous wrong. Familiar wrong. Like stepping into a room where the air pressure is slightly different and your ears don't quite adjust. Sterling blinked once, and for a fraction of a second, he saw the bridge from a different angle, as though he were standing behind his own chair rather than in front of it. Then it was gone. Calder frowned at his controls. Captain, helm is lagging. Engines? Sterling asked. Engines respond, Tanaka said from engineering, but the response isn't discrete. It's sliding, like we're changing state continuously, rather than switching between stable modes. Kyle stared at his display. The ship's identity signature, our multi-signature, is being interpolated. Sterling's gaze sharpened. Meaning? Meaning? The polyname sheath isn't being attacked, Kyle said. It's being averaged. Mara's violet flecks brightened. A soft boundary does not break you, she said. It blends you until you forget where you end. On the bridge, the lights dimmed by a single degree. Not enough that the crew would normally notice, but enough that they all looked up at the same time, like animals reacting to a change in weather. Did anyone? Cade began. No one touched the lighting, Calder said. Captain, Kyle said. The ship's environmental controls are smoothing themselves. Not failing, smoothing. Sterling felt the pressure in his chest again. It was subtle, like a hand placed gently on his shoulder. A suggestion rather than a shove. He stepped toward the viewport. Stars ahead were beginning to align, not into neat rows, into preferences. The chaos of space was being offered a gentler option, to become simpler. The ship's comm system crackled, not with a voice, but with the faintest harmonic tone, almost below hearing. A chord, a question in music. Mara tilted her head. It is asking, she said, not in words, in tendency. Cale's eyes widened. It's a field that reduces variance without violence. Petrov's voice came over the channel, controlled and clipped. Captain, I have 3 crew in medbay complaining of mild dissociation. They describe déjà vu, time slippage, and... She paused, choosing her words carefully. A sensation of becoming the version of themselves that the ship expects. Sterling's hand clenched. That's not acceptable. It's not malicious, Cale said, almost pleading. It's efficient. Cade finished, disgust in her tone. It's the universe as a bureaucrat? Sterling turned back to the bridge crew. Options. Tanaka spoke quickly. We could push through at higher speed. Less time in the gradient. And risk what? Petrov snapped. Captain, if this field is smoothing identities, higher speed could could shear the crew across those interpolations. Kale nodded grimly. We might come out the other side. Simplified. Mara's voice was softer than all of theirs. You cannot rush a place whose purpose is to make you stop resisting. Sterling looked at her. Then, how do we cross it? Mara met his gaze without flinching. By choosing what you will be, on purpose, together. Act High, The Drift. It began with small things. A junior officer at Ops, Ensign Reveau, paused mid-report and blinked hard as though waking. Captain, she said slowly, I know the sentence ends differently. Sterling leaned toward her. Ensign, she swallowed. I was going to say sensor resolution is decreasing, but I remember saying sensor resolution is improving. Both feel true. Kale spoke gently. Ensign, are you in pain? No, sir, she said. I just feel like the universe is picking one version of me. Sterling straightened. Across the bridge, Calder rubbed his temples. Cade's hand hovered near her sidearm in a reflex that made no sense in this context, as if her body needed something concrete to anchor to. Sterling keyed the shipwide intercom. All hands, he said. This is the captain. We are entering a region of anomalous physics. You may experience dissociation, déjà vu, or confusion. Report symptoms to medbay immediately. More importantly, he paused, letting the weight of his next words settle. Stay with each other. If you're alone, you will drift. Find a person, find a voice. He released the intercom and turned to Calder. Seal non-essential sections. Keep people clustered. Aye, Captain. In engineering, Tanaka was already running diagnostics like a pianist playing against a metronome that kept changing tempo. The hull's doing something, she said, breathing hard. It's trying to match the field. The sheath is generating multiple identities, but the boundary is, like Kale said, averaging them into a single smooth composite. If we let it run, we'll end up with one best fit signature. Can you prevent it? Sterling asked. I can resist it, Tanaka replied, but resistance is sharp. This boundary punishes sharpness by smoothing harder. It's like, she laughed once, humorless, trying to hold your hand steady when someone keeps gently pushing you toward the line. Kale's voice came over, engineering comms. Kaori, what if we don't resist? What if we modulate? Instead of pushing back, we pulse. Create intentional variance at a rhythm the boundary can't average cleanly. Tanaka went silent for a beat. A dithering pattern, she said. Like adding noise to prevent quantization. Cade cut in. Add noise to survive the universe trying to file us. I hate that this makes sense. Sterling's jaw tightened. Do it. Tanaka hesitated. Captain, if we do this, the ship will feel different. The crew will feel it. It'll be like living inside a chord that never resolves. Sterling thought of the Null Chapel, of the way the node had taken his memory so cleanly, leaving him with the concept of it, but not the taste. There were fates worse than death. One of them was being made tidy. Better a chord than a single note, he said. They called the crew together, not physically, not yet, but with voice. Kale and Mara worked side by side at science, translating sensor data into something more human. A map of probability currents flowing through the ship. This field is like social pressure, Kale explained to Sterling as the captain stood behind him. Not physical force. It nudges everything toward consensus. Mara watched the display. Consensus is a kind of death when it is not chosen. Sterling didn't answer. He was watching the numbers shift in ways that looked too much like a mind making a decision. Captain, Kale said, it's targeting our inconsistencies. Anything that makes us hard to predict. Good, Cade said. Let it choke on them. Mara's gaze turned inward, as though she were listening to something distant. It will not choke, she said. It will smooth, like water over stone, like time over pain. Sterling leaned forward. Then we need to become stone. Stone erodes, Mara replied. Become, she searched for a word. A reef, a structure made of many lives, many angles, many small resistances. Sterling looked at her sharply. Is that why you survived the network's normalization? The reef made you. Mara's expression flickered. Something like grief. Something like pride. The reef was a place where the network filtered noise. But noise is sometimes the only place a living thing can hide. I learned to live in the interference. Kale nodded slowly. Captain, if we want to cross this boundary without being averaged, we need synchronized, intentional variance. A crew-level protocol, not just an engineering one. Sterling felt the weight of command settle in his bones. Fine, he said. We make a choice together. He tapped his comm. Petrov, meet me in the wardroom. Bring any data on crew symptoms. Kale, Mara, come. Calder, hold course. Livia, he looked at her. Bring your instincts. We'll need them. Act 2. The vote inside the mind. The wardroom lights were bright. Almost too bright after the dim bridge. Sterling chose that on purpose. He wanted something firm. Something that declared itself without apology. They gathered around the table. Sterling, Calder, Cade, Petrov, Tanaka on a hololink from engineering, Kale and Mara, sitting slightly apart as if the geometry of the room treated her differently. Petrov began, without ceremony. Symptoms are escalating. Mild dissociation in 27 crew. Moderate in 9. No severe cases yet. But the pattern is consistent. People describe feeling pulled toward calmer, simpler versions of themselves. Calder frowned. Simpler how? Petrov's lips tightened. Less conflicted. Less alive. Sterling glanced at Mara. And you think this is how the network handles anomalies? Mara nodded once. If it cannot force you, it invites you. If you accept, you become a stable part of the system. You stop being a question. Kale leaned in, excited despite the tension. Captain, the boundary is a mechanism for producing a single solution out of many. It's not hostile. It's computational. Cade snorted. Computational. Wonderful. The universe as a spreadsheet. Tanaka's voice came from the holo speaker. I can build the hull dithering pattern, but Kel's right. We need the crew to stop passively drifting. If we don't anchor ourselves, the field will do it for us. Sterling folded his hands. Options. Kale spoke first. We could turn off the sheath, present a single identity. Let the boundary smooth us quickly, cross faster. Petrov's eyes hardened. Absolutely not, Calder added. And if we cross as a single identity, the next node will tag us. We'll be trackable again. Cade leaned forward. We keep the sheath. We dither the hull, we cluster the crew, and we add something else. Something human. Sterling looked at her. Go on. Cade hesitated, surprising herself. Ritual? Tanaka made a small sound over the link. Half laugh, half disbelief. Livia, are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we stop treating this like a machine problem, Cade said, voice low. The boundary is pressure toward consensus. Our best defense is to choose our own consensus, not accept theirs. We need a shared anchor. Mara's violet flecks brightened in approval. Yes. Kale's brow furrowed. A shared anchor? Like a song? Petrov's expression softened slightly. Or a memory. Sterling felt something twist in him. Memory. The one he'd lost? The smell of rain on hot stone. He could describe it. He could explain what it meant. But when he tried to summon it, there was only an empty place where a sensory truth should have been. He looked down at the table. We can't anchor to what were already gone, he said quietly. But we can anchor to what we choose now. Calder nodded slowly. A ship-wide protocol? Kale's eyes lit. Captain, what if we create a deliberate rotating set of identities? Not random, not averaged. A sequence. Mara tilted her head. A procession, Kale continued, building momentum. If the network wants a single resolved state, we present a living cycle, multiple self-descriptions that are all true, none dominant. The boundary can't average if the input never holds still. Tanaka's voice sharpened. I can sync hull dithering to that cycle. Make the ship physically breathe between states. Petrov exhaled. That will intensify symptoms. Sterling met her gaze. Will it prevent permanent simplification? Petrov hesitated. Then reluctantly, it might. Cade's hand closed on the edge of the table. We do it. Sterling looked around the room. This is a crew choice. We're altering not just the ship, but ourselves. Mara? He turned to her. Your crew. You get a vote. Mara's eyes, if they could be called eyes, held a depth that made Sterling think of ancient oceans. I have lived as what they wanted me to be, she said. It was quiet. It was safe. It was not life. I vote no. No to their peace. Calder nodded. I. Kale nodded. I. Fetov's jaw tightened. She looked at Sterling a long moment, then nodded once. I. But I want every crew member informed and consenting as much as possible. No surprises. Sterling nodded. Agreed, he stood. Then we make ourselves a moving target, he said. We cross the soft boundary as a choice, not a drift. Act 3. Becoming many on purpose. The Argo changed in ways you couldn't photograph. Tanaka implemented the hull dithering pattern. Micromodulations of the hull interaction field, synchronized to a rotating identity cycle. Each cycle lasted 90 seconds. The ship would lean toward one signature, then another, then another. Never long enough to be averaged, never sharp enough to trigger a punitive smoothing response. Cal and Mara built the cycle's logic not from math alone, but from crew reality. It has to be true. Cal told Sterling on the bridge as the system came online. Not fiction. If we lie, the network will detect inconsistency and resolve it. Mara's voice was quiet. Truth is wider than one shape. They chose 5 anchors, 5 names of the ship that were all genuine. Explorer, the Argo as the spear point of human curiosity. Refuge, the Argo as home. Shelter, care. Weapon, not in firepower, but in defiance. Question, the Argo as an unknown the network can't solve. Promise, the Argo as the thing that continues. Each anchor was paired with a ship-wide cue, a lighting temperature shift, a barely audible harmonic tone, a subtle change in gravity by a fraction of a percent, enough that bodies could feel it without panic. Petrov insisted on the sensory cues. If your mind drifts, she said, your body can still remember where you are. Sterling watched the crew as the first cycle began. The bridge lights cooled slightly. A low tone, almost felt more than heard, vibrated through the deck. The ship's gravity softened by a whisper. Explorer cycle, Kale said. Sterling felt it like a mood, like a direction. The pressure in his chest eased, not because the boundary had relented, but because the ship had chosen its own shape for the moment. Then the cycle shifted. Lights warmed. Tone changed. Gravity steadied. Refuge, Mara murmured. In medbay, Petrov reported symptoms stabilizing, not disappearing, but becoming manageable. They're still feeling alternate selves, she said, but now they're describing it as perspective, not erosion. As the Argo moved deeper into the gradient, the outside view grew stranger. Stars didn't smear now, they layered. You could see faint ghost star fields offset from the true one, like the universe itself was presenting multiple possible skies at once. Captain, Calder said, voice tight, helm readings are splitting. I'm seeing 3 course vectors, all equally valid. Sterling stepped beside him. Choose the one that keeps us inside our cycle. Calder nodded, hands steadying. He was no longer trying to force a single solution. He was steering through a set of truths. Cade's voice cut in. Security to bridge! We have a crew incident in Corridor C7. 2 crew members. They can't agree on who they are. Sterling's stomach tightened. Details. They're not violent, Cade said. But one insists he's been on the ship for 8 years. The other insists it's been 2. They're the same man, Captain. He's oscillating. Petrov's voice came immediately. Bring him to medbay. Pair him with a familiar person. Use the cycle cues. Mara's gaze went distant. The boundary will try to separate you, she said. Not physically, by making your internal histories incompatible. Alone you will break into versions. Together, you can hold. Sterling clenched his jaw. Then we hold. The Argo pressed on. At the center of the gradient, the pressure increased. The ship's identity cycle began to feel like swimming against a current. The boundary wanted rest. It wanted stillness. It wanted a single answer. The bridge tone deepened, vibrating through bone. Kale's eyes widened. Captain, it's escalating. The field is attempting a full interpolation. It's trying to produce an optimal composite identity for the ship and crew. Tanaka's voice came through, strained. Hull field is nearing tolerance. If the boundary forces a smooth composite, the sheath will collapse into a single stable signature. Sterling looked at Mara. What happens if we let it? Mara's voice was almost tender. You become easy. Sterling felt anger rise, clean and sharp. I didn't bring this ship out here to become easy. He keyed the ship-wide comm again. All hands, he said, voice firm. We're at peak boundary. If you feel yourself slipping, speak. Say your name. Say someone else's name. Hold each other. We are not here to be solved. On the bridge, Calder whispered. Captain, I can feel it. Sterling looked at him. What? Calder swallowed. A version of me that doesn't want to fight anymore. A version that wants to accept the calm. Sterling nodded slowly. And what does the version of you that's here say? Calder's eyes hardened. It says calm isn't peace if it's chosen for you. Cade's voice came low. Captain, I feel efficient. Sterling almost laughed, but it came out rough. Livia Cade feeling efficient is how I know we're in danger. Cale's hands shook as he held his console. It's not just smoothing, he said. It's offering a stable attractor state. A life without contradiction. Petrov's voice cracked through comms, softer than before. Captain, people are describing relief. That's what scares me. Mara stepped forward, facing the viewport, as if facing an unseen presence. Her violet light flared. It is whispering, she said. It says, stop hurting, stop wanting, stop changing, let us hold you. Sterling stood. His heartbeat sounded loud in his ears. Cale, he said. Can we answer it? Cale blinked. Captain? Sterling gestured at Mara. It asks in tendencies. In harmonics? In pressure. We respond together. Not with weapons. With an assertion. Cale's face shifted. Understanding dawning. A counter-harmonic. Tanaka's voice rose. Captain, the hull can broadcast. If we synchronize the identity cycle into an external field, Petrov cut in. You want to declare yourselves to the boundary. Sterling nodded. On our terms. Cade's eyes narrowed. That's either brave or suicidal. Sterling's gaze was steady. It's the only way I know how to live. They did it. Cale and Tanaka synchronized the 5-anchor cycle into a single composite waveform, not a resolved one, but a braided one. Mara contributed something no one else could, the memory of being normalized, the taste of the quiet that wasn't peace. She shaped the waveform like an artist shaping light. On Sterling's mark, the Argo pulsed the braided signal outward. For a moment, the universe went still. Not the stillness of compliance, the stillness of listening. The gradient's pressure did not vanish, but it changed. The smoothing current faltered, as if encountering a stone it could not erode, because the stone kept changing shape without breaking. Stars outside the viewport flickered, ghost layers collapsing and reappearing. The boundary did not yield like a door opening. It yielded like a tide turning. "Captain," Calder whispered, awe in his voice. "It's letting us pass." Cale stared at his sensors. "It can't average us. Not because we're random. Because we're chosen. The input is coherent but not singular." Mara's voice was quiet, almost reverent. "You have shown it a life it cannot compress." The ship moved forward, and the gradient began to thin. Behind them, space regained its honest messiness. Stars returned to being stars, not preferences. The pressure in Sterling's chest eased, leaving behind a fatigue that felt earned. Tanaka's voice came through, shaky with relief. "Hull field is stabilizing. Sheath remains multi-state. We're through the worst." Petrov exhaled audibly over comms. "Crew symptoms are decreasing. Some are crying, Captain. Not from fear, from release." Sterling sank back into his chair, suddenly aware of how hard he'd been holding himself together. He closed his eyes for a moment, and in that darkness, he tried again, just once, to remember the smell he'd lost. Rain on hot stone. Still nothing. But there was something else now. The memory of a ship choosing itself against the universe's gentle pressure. The feeling of many voices holding one another. He opened his eyes. "We're not getting back what we lose," he murmured. Mara looked at him. "No," she said softly. "But you are learning what cannot be taken if you do not hand it over." Sterling nodded once, and the nod felt like a promise. Tag, the next layer. Cale's console chimed. A clean, precise tone that made everyone on the bridge look up. "Captain," Cale said slowly, "we have something." Sterling leaned forward. "Talk to me." "We didn't just cross," Cale said. "The boundary left. Residue. A map. Not coordinates. Relationships. It's pointing toward a structure ahead." Calder frowned. "Another node?" Cale shook his head. "Not like the others. This is storage, preservation. A place where multiple versions are kept without being averaged." Mara's violet flecks dimmed as if she were suddenly far away. "The Mirror Archive," she whispered. Cade's voice went tight. "That sounds like a trap with good branding." Petrov's channel opened. Cautious. "Captain, if the boundary was persuasion, an archive is temptation. People will want to see themselves, who they could have been." Sterling stared at the stars ahead. The universe was messy again, but the mess had an edge now, a sense of being watched, not by malice, but by a system learning. "Set course," he said quietly. "Slowly. We don't rush temptation." Calder nodded. "Aye, Captain." The Argo turned, engines flaring gentle and warm against the dark. Behind them, the soft boundary continued to exist, patient, blending, waiting for the next thing that resisted being solved. Ahead, something glittered faintly in the void, like a memory that hadn't decided whether to become real. Thank you for listening. If you like this story, please subscribe for more.